Today's video comes from Moist Critical. His channel will be linked in the description so you can go check him out and support him. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Tampa's newest and already most hated villain has actually been identified and caught. Right before Hurricane Milton was scheduled to slam into Tampa, a patrol officer noticed a dog chained to a fence in very high water. Everyone wanted to know who was the owner. What irredeemable piece of shit could do this to their pet? The idea was for the dog to die in the hurricane because the owner didn't want the dog anymore, clearly. This became such a huge story, not only online but locally, that my mom actually called me just to vent her frustration after seeing that video. The video was massive, and it became like a real-life Yu Yu Hakusho chapter black tape, where seeing it immediately sent you into a frenzy and made you hate the owner of this dog. He immediately just became public enemy number one. Like fucking Cobra Commander, and everyone was trying to hunt them down for how cruel this was.
On Trooper.
Infuriates pretty much anyone that sees it, for good reason. I thought there was no chance that the owner would ever be identified or anything like that, because this is not uncommon. There are tons of subhuman worms that do this all the time to pets they no longer want. But in this case, it became so big that it seems they put a lot of resources behind finding the owner here and bringing them to justice. And that one on the persuasion check, that's a stupid reason. There were a million other things you could have done besides just leave the dog to die. And in fact, he did more than that. It's not like he just pulled over and let the dog out, which would have been horrible. He went the extra mile into being exceptionally evil by making the decision to tie the dog to that fence, ensuring it would die in the hurricane because it would have no way of escaping. This asshole had to waddle through like shin-high water himself in order to tie the dog to that pole. He really wanted it to die. This isn't like the matter of, oh, I was out of options, so I had to tie my dog to a fucking fence in the middle of a hurricane in order to keep myself safe on this journey to Georgia. Like, it's not like you couldn't take the dog with you. You were actively traveling with it in your car until you just threw your hands up, I guess, saying fiddlesticks, and then pulled over to tie the dog to the fence. I guess you needed to make room in your car for more galaxy gas and Fent, you brain rot loser. Like, this is so unbelievably cruel, and there's no justifying it at all. There is no reason he could possibly give to try and make this not an awful, awful, terrible thing that he's to me. That apparently he was trying to get rid of this dog for quite a long period of time, and then decided, Eureka, this is the moment! Hurricane Milton can kill it! Finally, the Lord has answered my prayers, a natural disaster to kill my dog. What kind of psychopath? It blows my mind that someone like this exists. Like that is a testament to how far technology and science has come, because this guy 100% would have died fucking 10 years ago trying to investigate bear shit to see if it tasted good, and he would have just been mauled to death in a jungle, and we would have never been cursed to be burdened with his stupidity. Like, it is so fucking shocking that someone this dumb and this dangerously stupid and evil has made it this far.
Of course. And, this guy was 23 years old. And it's no surprise. You have to remember that it's not too long ago, in fact, I think it was earlier this year, that a Gen Zer was taken into custody on charges of selling secrets, national defense secrets, to China for $3,000 a pop. So he evidently did it like 14 times, and he sold these secrets to China 14 times, $3,000 a pop. This is a Gen Zer. This is the reason why I say that these people really do not have much of a future in society, and they cannot be trusted in positions of responsibility. The people who are saying that, just work, just give them a chance, and, the workplace and the world needs to change for them, are totally full of crap. Most of these people that are saying these things are Gen Xers who are parents of Gen Zers, and they cannot admit that their kids are the kids are not okay. So to say that the vast majority of them are dishonest and failures and are basically a danger to society and everyone around them would basically be saying that their own children are Either that or the vast majority of their generation is, and this is a hopeless situation. So, of course, they are not going to admit to any of this. Now, consider in 2024, 6 out of every 10 companies that have hired Gen Zers have already admitted to firing those Gen Zers. 6 out of 10 companies. And they say that they've been firing these Gen Zers within typically a couple of weeks or a couple of months of hiring them. So anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to 2 to 3 months, they are firing Gen Zers. 6 out of 10 companies. To make matters worse, if it's 6 out of 10 that are admitting to it, you have to think about the other 4 that are not. These people are creating so many problems in society, it's absolutely sad. And they do not have a center of consciousness. They do not, or a conscience. They could care less about their actions and the way they're affecting everyone around them. The center of their money is their center. There you go. The center of their lives is money, just like the center of the boomers' lives was consumerism. These people are the same ones that are saying, well, we're stealing from our jobs because we're not getting paid fairly. So if you didn't want us to steal from you, then you should pay us properly. That's not how this works. Someone referred to them in my comment section as a bunch of future indentured servants, or rather, indentured servants. It was a Gen Xer in response to Gen Z talking crap about Gen X. And that's very much where Gen Z is headed. They are a generation that will ultimately be indentured servants. They will basically be at the whims of the state. The state will control them. The state will basically have control of every aspect of their lives. They will have no freedom. These are people who are very comfortable and happy to leave their jobs. Most Gen Zers now say that they are fine with being fired or leaving their jobs so they can go and pursue their happiness. How are they living and surviving? It's quite simple. Because many of them are being subsidized by their parents. While others that don't have their parents to subsidize their living, they're on social media crying, saying that they have no one to help them. Many Gen Zers aren't at that point yet. And it's so stupid when I hear Gen Xers, and I'm going to say, call it out and say exactly what it is. It is so stupid when I hear Gen Xers saying that their kids can live in their basement, their crappy Gen Z kids can live in their basements, or rather, they'll stay in the basement. They'll go in the basement and play video games from the 80s, and Gen Z can have the rest of their homes. The Gen Zers can have the house. And my response was, of course, you cannot give these idiots the house because they'll just burn it down. This is a level of nonsense on the part of a lot of Gen Xers who just have given up. They've absolutely given up. Gen X, one of the most badass generations ever, if not the most badass generation ever. Granted, the World War II generation might be the most badass generation ever. But regardless, guys, the fact remains that you cannot let these people just have their way, because you give them an inch, they take a mile. Many of them are so far gone that they think the world owes them something, and the world and the workplace has to change for them and adapt to them. This is absolute nonsense. No one has time to adapt to you and to give you what you want. Oh, we don't want to work. We don't want to work 40 hours a week. So the workplace has to adapt to us and allow us to work fewer hours. If you allow Gen Zers to work fewer hours, then you're going to have to change the workforce for everyone else, which means productivity goes down and the cost of labor increases substantially. So what are they going to do? Are they going to adapt to Gen Z, who's making all of these demands and still getting no work done? Or are they simply going to avoid hiring them and compete harder for the existing millennials and Gen Xers? That's what they are actually doing. They are just competing harder for existing millennials and Gen Xers, and they are avoiding hiring Gen Zers entirely. Entirely. They did a study over the last 2 years, and they actually found that was it? I think it was either 4 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. So 400, it was either 400 or 600 out of 1,000 companies admitted that they don't hire Gen Zers. So if they get a resume from a Gen Zer, they just basically look at it. They look at that they don't hire new college grads, and they look at the birth year if it's available, and they just see the birth year and they're like, yeah, we're not hiring this person. Or it's a new college grad, that it's likely a Gen Zer, we're not hiring this person. And they can often tell by that, you looking at the work history. For example, even if you don't know how old the person is, if you look at the work history and there's a zero work history, for example, if there's work history going back to the 2000s, then you can say easily, okay, so this person is a millennial or a Gen Xer to the early 2000s or even the mid 2000s. But if you're dealing with someone who has zero work experience whatsoever, and they're talking about, I did an internship here and there, then you're dealing with typically a Gen Xer, a Gen Zer, or the very, very most a younger millennial, and they're like, we're just not going to hire those people. And Gen Z has done that to themselves. And they could care less. They don't understand that they're turning society, and for the most part, humanity against them. Humanity is not the enemy of Gen Z, but they treat humanity as their enemy because they say that everyone older than them is a boomer, and the boomers stole their futures. The boomers stole all of our futures. As a Zenio, they stole our futures while we were still in diapers. And they're still doing it. Regardless of that, you still cannot go around and steal it back. That's what they're saying. The boomers stole our future, so we're just going to steal it back by stealing from everyone around us. That is a load of stupidity, but again, that pretty much represents the behavior and the thought process of Gen Z, because they don't think, they just act, which is the reason why I've said that not only are they going to be a generation of, that sleeps and farts, but they're also going to be a generation of thieves and squatters, because they won't be afford to live anywhere. They won't be able to afford to live anywhere, and they won't be able to afford to buy anything, so they'll be stealing everything. Their skill sets are completely going downhill, because the more number of years that you're out of the workforce, the harder it is to ever re-enter into the workforce. And when you have Gen Zers that are so careless and so evil, doing things like leaving an innocent dog at the side of the road, especially in a country where more people are becoming dog parents because they're foregoing having children entirely, the levels of anger are only going to rise. Eventually, guys, you're probably going to see things happening like in other countries. Now they have policies where people born after a certain year can no longer purchase cigarettes. It's highly possible we can end up with similar policies for certain things where people born after a certain year, basically Gen Z and Gen Alpha, won't be able to have certain privileges. I cannot say that they'll take away the right to vote from them, but we could see things like drinking rights go away for Gen Z, or the age increase substantially, among a variety of other things. And they basically did it to themselves because they are such a group of bad muffins. A group of absolutely bad, bad, bad little muffins. They're a bad batch that should never have made it out of the oven, if you know what I mean.
It has not been an Fox 13 News.
I've said this for years, and I will keep saying it for years to come. Animal cruelty charges need to carry harsher penalties.
One of the issues that we saw happen was we had somebody decide, as Hurricane Milton approached, that it would somehow be a good thing to take his dog and chain it to a post on the interstate. Well, we had a Florida Highway Patrol with us here today that saw that dog in distress. Dog was very rattled from that experience, rescued the dog. The dog's now in Tallahassee. It will be adopted, renamed Trooper. But we said at the time, you don't just tie up a dog and have them out there for a storm. Totally unacceptable, and we're going to hold you accountable. Well, I'm proud to announce that the authorities have identified the dog's former owners, and State Attorney Susie Lopez is now pursuing animal cruelty charges against the individual. So we said you'd be held accountable, and you will.
So this horrible human being is going to be facing some very serious consequences. He is going to be facing felony charges, thankfully. It looks like they've upgraded those charges, and it's going to be, hopefully when he goes to prison, because he really does need to get prison time, he will not have a good time. Chances are, though, he very well may not get prison time. He may end up getting a slap on the wrist. But he's in county jail right now, to my understanding. I don't think he's bailed out yet. So hopefully they'll show him a good time in there and, help him to become a proper lady, if you get what I mean. This is a terrible human being, and this is just a reflection of how both Gen Zers are in general, because they don't care about anything or anyone else but themselves. They just want to have a good time, which is one of the drawbacks of sending Gen Z to jail and prison, because that's where they were headed anyway in the long term. So they go in with an associate's degree in petty crime, and they come out with a PhD in criminology. And I don't mean the kind that allows you to work for the police department or law enforcement and help solve crimes. No, they just learn how to be better at committing crimes. That's who they are as people. Not very good people, very bad people. And there are some, like Moist Critical, who think that these punishments are still, again, not enough, and they need to be held, they need to be punished even worse. They need longer jail sentences, and it needs to be basically like maybe hard labor. And I think that is really proper. I think that Gen Z does need to receive hard labor. They basically need to, solitary is a part of it, but they do need to receive hard labor. They do need to be out in the sun breaking up rocks. They have to learn a lesson. In Singapore, they still use corporal discipline. And if you commit a serious act over in Singapore, it doesn't even have to be crazy. You can be disciplined, well, at least the men can, and basically it involves, you understand what corporal discipline is. It's a tradition, and I think that it's something that needs to be brought to the United States or brought back, and because it's I don't think it's cruel or unusual, and I think that it's something along those lines that will help to teach them how to behave better and then reintegrate into society after they serve their time, and they sure as heck do need to serve their time.
They need to have more severe consequences. There are an infinite number of studies that have been conducted that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt a very strong correlation between people that hurt animals and people that hurt human beings. I'm sure all of you already know this, but it's important to remember that one of the earliest signs of psychopathy in human beings is animal cruelty, like a kid hurting the family pet, or skinning a stray cat, or gutting a squirrel, that kind of shit. Like, it is indicative of someone that could be a danger to society. Someone that would do something like this, tying a dog to a fence during a hurricane to ensure it dies a painful, agonizing death. Like, I understand he is facing repercussions, which is great. I think it's a maximum of 5 years. I don't know if he'll actually get 5 years. I imagine he probably will not, but I think he should get the maximum possible sentence, and it should be a very harsh and severe sentence. I have said that for so long, and I will continue to say that for so long. Animal cruelty charges need to be taken much more seriously than they are. But I know I'm getting heated. The reason I'm calling this great news is because not only is the dog okay and most likely going to find its forever home after all of this, but they caught the guy. Which I don't know how they did that. I appreciate that they took the time and effort to do that. I have no clue how they pulled that shit off, though. That blows my mind. Like I said, this kind of thing does happen a lot, unfortunately, for pieces of shit that just don't want their dog anymore. I don't know how they tracked him down. I guess they must have had like some maybe like traffic cams that they started to like piece together a timeline, and they figured out who it was based on that. Maybe the sheriff's department's got Cerebro in their headquarters and they were able to fucking jack into the mainframe here and piece the whole puzzle together. I have no clue, but they did it. They did catch the guy.
And let me make this clear. I'm not simply dogging on Gen Z. I'm just pointing out the obvious, that they are not good people. They are the hardest generation to work with. That's why they are being fired rapidly. And again, they say they don't really give a damn. They would enjoy the staycation. They would prefer the staycation They get to stay home, play games, play with themselves, and have a good time because mommy and daddy are going to fund it. And eventually, and when mommy and daddy stop funding it or they're not around anymore, then they want the state to step in and do it for them because Gen Z are natural little socialists. They believe that the world owes them something and that the world has to change and adapt to them. They are a bunch of absolute jokers that are disconnected from reality, and they've never really had hard lives. They've never really struggled. And because they have never really struggled, because they've never really had to work for anything and to go through, they never really had to work for anything or strive for anything. As a result of that, they are now out in society being nasty, being rude, trying to take advantage of kindness. That's the terrible mental state of Gen Zers. It's an unfortunate reality, but it's a reality that we are now stuck in and that we are forced to live with because of these people who were given everything by their parents, and instead of learning how to be grateful, they just turned around and crapped on all of us and crapped on society because before they even turn 18, they think they're entitled to own a house. Yes, the boomers purchased their homes for scraps, and now they're worth like $3 million a pop. But guess what? That doesn't change the fact that Gen Z are not good people, and they just want to use everyone and take advantage of everyone for their own personal gain.
I have a bunch of kids entering the workforce that say, I don't like to work past 4 o'clock. You want to be successful in what you do, you're supposed to be first in the morning and close up shop. Somebody will notice that.
And Judge Judy says it's the Gen Z they're noticing isn't appreciating that. That age group runs from 12 to 27, and to hear the good judge talk about it, and a lot of bosses, that is the most unreliable workforce on the planet. I don't know if my next guest agreed. Gigi Robinson, creator economy expert, Gen Z herself. Allie Breen joins us, comedian extraordinaire, millennial, I guess, so a tad more time to sort of reflect on all of this. So, Gigi, let me ask you, is your generation worthless?
I don't think my generation's worthless. I think that Gen Z grew up as the first digitally native generation, and we're used to information fast, and we're used to information and work and getting back to people within seconds.
Jodie Foster, this actually came out, article from 2024. Jodie Foster, she's an actress, slams Gen Z as really annoying to work with, saying they can't even write emails correctly. All right? Jodie slammed Generation Z, saying they can be really annoying to work with. In an interview with The Guardian, no one likes The Guardian. This is actually coming from Business Insider. The Oscar-winning actor said she found it difficult to understand the attitudes towards work held by Gen Zers, usually considered to be those born between 1997 and 2012. I think they're going to change the years very soon because now they're saying that Gen Alpha starts at 2010. So I think they're going to play with the years. They're really annoying, especially in the workplace. She said, they're like, nah, I'm not feeling it today. I'm going to come in at 10:30 a.m. She added that they also often fail to grasp the necessity of writing professional sounding emails. In emails, I'll tell them, this is all grammatically incorrect. Did you not check your spelling? And they're like, why would I do that? Isn't that kind of limiting? Guys, they have spell check. I mean, when we write things today, when we write emails, there's a little red line that pops up and tells us the spelling is incorrect. Like, guys, I'm so tedious these days. And some of you guys are like anal about it. I'll go over my spelling, I check everything, and then sometimes I'll even run it through ChatGPT, and then I'll make sure that ChatGPT, double checks it, and then on top of that, then I'll double check what ChatGPT wrote to catch any additional errors. Like, that's how crazy I am about my spelling now, and that's on top of also using other checks, because I want to make sure everything flows well. Gen Z, they have all of these tools at their fingertips. They are too lazy to even use them. But then at the same time, we have to remember that these are a group of not very bright people that did not do very well in high school. Many of them earned high school diplomas and college degrees that they were not entitled to, that they never actually earned. I've heard parents saying that, these kids are standing in front of school, standing in front of the class, stuttering and they can't really read and write, and they earned college degrees, they earned high school diplomas as a result of things being shut down between 2020 and now. And it's, things have opened up, but a lot of them earned their degrees during that time, and they're still making demands in college where they want exams canceled and everything else. So these are some bad people. They're out here like, oh, we do it. We want everything right now. We want to communicate instantly, but they're not very good communicators. They cannot communicate in the workplace. They're terrible at communication. Terrible. And they can't even write an email. They have very poor hard skills and soft skills. They don't really know how to use computers very well. And you have people who are saying, well, oh, they didn't get taught, got taught computers, how to use computers in school when we were millennials and Gen Z and Gen Xers. Gen Z was not taught how to use computers in school. Does that make any sense to you guys? We were taught on those old what is it, old Macintoshes. Like I didn't even know what they were. I could not remember what the heck they were until Gen X told me, oh yeah, those were the Macintoshes. We were taught on these old ass Macintoshes, guys, back in the 80s. I remember like being 6 years old, 7 years old, going to computer lab, and we had the old Macintoshes there, and if we behaved, we can play games on them. All right? And that was our exposure. And like guys, like when we were growing up, WordPad, like Word was like exciting for us, being able to write documents, and we had the little clip art guy, and we could like use it to ask questions. It wasn't like AI of today, but it was still kind of cool, like using it to find information. That was our fun. We didn't have a lot. Gen Z are going to be a generation of indentured servants, just like this Gen Xer said. Some Gen Xer called them a bunch of indentured servants, and they really are, because the world is not going to change for them, and the world is not going to change to, accommodate them. This is a horrible world that we live in. You have to be smart, you have to be wise, you have to be careful. And Gen X, they're a very dishonest group of people, but at the same time, they're going to be taken advantage of by people who are smarter, by professional criminals. Don't get me wrong, Gen Z will eventually catch up when it comes to crime, because like I said, many of them will eventually just end up in prison, incarcerated, which is where they ultimately do belong, but they're just going to have a good time there. They're going to end up meeting other criminals, and these criminals are going to say, what are you in for, man? And they're going to say, I'm in for petty theft. They'll say, tell me about it. And they're going to explain to them how they got caught. They're going to say, listen, you're not supposed to do it like that. You have to watch the cameras. You have to listen, man. We're gonna teach you. We're gonna fix you up. So when you get out, you're gonna do it right, okay? You're gonna do it right. And you're gonna make me proud. Because if you don't do it right, I'm gonna come looking for you. I'm not playing games with you, all right? So I'm gonna pull out spreadsheets. We don't play around in here. We don't play around in here. Pull out some spreadsheets. We have these made. We're gonna teach you how to survey Walmart. We're gonna teach you the best places, all right? Don't mess with Costco because they have cameras everywhere. And they pretend to be nice, but they're not as nice as you think, all right? But Trader Joe's, yeah. Listen to me. You know how many times I hit Trader Joe's, got caught, and still went back? Listen, bro, we're going to fix you up, all right? We're going to fix you up, little bro. We're going to fix you up. That's what they're going to get. They're going to go incarcerated. They're going to get incarcerated they're going to go in with an associate's, and they're going to come out with a PhD in crime. These are some bad muffins, y'all. There's some bad, good for nothing muffins. I can't tolerate these individuals. Now, I just also want to remind you, if you want to support this channel and everything I do, check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse. Get top expat and passport bro travel tips, digital nomad guides, passive income strategies, and hard-hitting Manosphere content. Free subscribers get access to videos, podcasts, and articles, as well as community chat, plus receive the passive income blueprint and digital nomad blueprint just for subscribing. Paid subscribers unlock exclusive guides like the How to Build an Online Business in 24 Hours ebook, wealth building blueprints, and crypto updates. Join us now and click the link in the description.
And so I think that Are we worthless? No.
No.
But do we have our work cut out for us in terms of traditional workforce? Absolutely.
Okay, you're no boomer, young lady. That's all I'll say. I'm kidding. Allie, what do you make of all this, the back and forth on whether that group is up to the job?
I mean, I think it's our own fault that they might not be. We're letting them graduate basically with a major in vegan arts and a minor in Taylor Swift at this point, and we're paying off all their loans after that's done. I mean, this generation is expecting to get their dream job. They want gluten-free options in the cafeteria. They want to sit on yoga balls while they work.
And the problem with that
they feel attacked
is
if they don't get that.
Okay.
Productivity, apparently. You end up like a Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, man. But I guess what a lot of these bosses are saying, you can't be corrected. You're very sensitive to that. You don't like anyone telling you what to do. By the way, I've heard various generations of, targeted for that sort of thing. But how do you feel about that? That maybe you're being unfairly targeted?
I think part of the issue is in communication. As I mentioned before, young kids, specifically Gen Z, is known as the loneliest generation. And so when you take a generation that's already struggling with communication with their peers and you expect them to just fit in normally or not have any problems at work, I think that's where the disconnect with this whole thing is. And I think that we have to take better care of young people's mental health, and also the older people in the workforce need to communicate maybe in newer ways and or teach younger people how to communicate in older ways, which they might be
real
resistant.
quickly, Allie, that sounds like you not doing your job.
The older generation needs to teach them how to communicate in older ways, or they need to learn how to communicate in newer ways. Yeah, guys, that's not going to happen. Communicating through TikTok is not going to happen. Even when I worked in the office, and many of us worked in offices, we had group chats, and sometimes there were all kinds of racy nonsense in the group chats that we communicated in. Gen Zers are just bad people, all right? There's things that happen in the office that obviously should not be happening in the office. I remember being in the office and we have a group chat and there were pictures being sent in the group chat that just should not be sent in the group chat. But this is just how that was just the office. But at the same time, we all had to dress professionally. We all had to behave in a professional manner. We understood that there were certain things that you could do and could not do. And you had to be able to have a conversation with people. Guys, this is the fault of Gen Z. This is not the fault of anyone else. If you do not know how to write an email, you can ask your employer. In fact, most of the time, they will teach you directly how to formulate an email. They'll give you the signature. It's not hard. You can also just look at how others write emails and copy the structure of their email. You can, how do you communicate in the office? They tell you exactly how to communicate in the office. You're told what to do and what not to do. It's common sense to know that there are also certain things you should not be doing with products like cell phones and tablets or on computers that belong to the office, because they can monitor everything. Gen Z has no common sense. These people think that you're supposed to be able to message them through TikTok whenever they feel like it. They're out of their damn minds. Their behavior is not appropriate for a business environment. The business cannot change for them because there are some things that are security breaches as well, and it also inhibits the ability to conduct business. These are bad people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess my generation's used to actually writing emails, and Gen Z is responding in GIFs and emojis, which is probably good for communication off of the work site. But during work, I mean, you don't want to approve multi-million deals with like a thumbs up or a winky face. So there is probably a bit of a disconnect, and there's probably a middle ground that we can all reach. But yeah, there's a divide right now for sure.
You don't want to approve multi-million-dollar deals using winkies and emojis. Thumbs up. Guys, these people are horrid. They just want to avoid having to deal with anything as quickly as possible. They don't actually want to do their jobs. They don't understand the fine details and how important those things are, and how you can fall into a lot of problems if you do not pay attention to the fine details. Gen Z are a generation who cares about nothing whatsoever except for themselves. They just want to have a good time. What do you guys think? Do you agree that Gen Z is going to fall into horrible states of destitution and many will end up as indentured servants in the future? Let me know your thoughts and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA men walking away. And cheers.